Ladies and gentlemen, this video is brought to you by Loot Crate. Now, at the end of the video, I'm going to be unboxing this bad boy for you all to check out. Shout out to Loot Crate real quick here for sponsoring the channel. It goes a long way, it really is appreciated. Either way, enjoy the content, and at the end of the video, we're going to be opening this bad boy. How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? My name is RuffledRowlit, and welcome back to a brand new video, guys. Today, we're going to be doing something quite different. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be doing a theory video, and this is one that's going to be quite intriguing. So, I'm just going to tell you this right now. This was sent to me by a viewer who's actually one of our Patreon supporters, and the man is a freaking legend, straight up legend, because he put together one of the most amazing things I've ever seen. Now, his name is Rex, or R.EX, and he actually made this theory, and it's very, very intriguing. It goes through the mythology of real-life mythologies, European gods, and that sort of stuff, and mixes it in with Pokemon and kind of looks at how that would make sense for something like Pokemon Sword and Shield. So I thought we'd do this video, go through it. I hope you guys do enjoy it. Make sure to drop a like down below, and let's get started with the content. Sword and Shield theories, hashtag mythology, European gods. Let's go, ladies and gentlemen. So here's how we start off this. Now, the Nordic myths are in part very similar to the continental Germanic myths, which you guys, if you don't know what that means, basically Germanic being kind of like the area around Germany and kind of upper, Denmark-esque area around there back in the olden days. The Germanic people were very similar in style, I'd probably say, to the Viking people, so to say. Kind of very similar, but, different as well. A lot of similarities. Now, today it is generally assumed that the god society was originally the same for these two people. As an example, Odin is to call, who in turn is known as Wodan or Tyr, which is a copy of the war god Ares, but as well is sometimes set as the god above all others, like Odin is. So basically, if you look at mythology, the mighty gods, there's always kind of like this similar hierarchy in these, mythological gods versus, the kind of way we look at God nowadays, where there's only really one, and the only other, only religion that's really, widely known that actually has more than one god is, I guess, Hinduism. There you got, several different gods and that sort of stuff, so it should make kind of sense. Now, the myths were more of a theoretical superstructure for certain cult forms and had little to do with the faith in our sense. It is also common that the natural elements such as light, trees, stones, earth, and water itself were considered alive and deities, which is true. If you look back in time, all these things were seen as living, breathing, organisms in our around us. So a tree could be considered your great-great-grandfather in some weird way. I'm making a little bit of a superstitious joke here, but my point is, these things were very much more looked in less of a logical sense, but more in a black and white sense. These plants, they're also living creatures in that sense, right? So that's kind of the way you should look at it. Now, how does this work with Pokemon? How does this play in with Pokemon? Well, there's something you should notice here. Now, on the screen here, you'll see an image, which basically shows you a kind of screenshots from the Pokemon movie. I think this is the Zoroark movie, where you've got a battle between the green side, and the red side. And in the movie, this is basically a war that goes through. And below there, you'll also see on this image, there's also a picture of the runes from Pokemon Sword and Shield's trailer revealed during February this year. And this basically shows us these runic scriptures on these stones, which are very strange, and I actually did research these, and they're kind of intriguing. So you can start with the top here, with which X could equal G equals gift, and then element sky, gods Freya, or Odin, Wodan, which is, I guess, in the Germanic way of referring to it, and Freya, which is also just, the Germanic way right there. So you got that. Then you got the kind of circular looking almost thing, almost like a diamond shape, which is NG, which could be element earth / earth god. And then you've got this big kind of weird crossmark diamond shaped thing, which is Gungnir. Now, I actually have talked about this before, because this was discovered by another one of our viewers a long time ago now, which was really, really cool. And basically, Gungnir, god, or Spear of Odin, Sword of Odin / Norse rune letter Gar, which symbolizes the legendary weapon of Odin, Gungnir. Gungnir was also a dwarven magical weapon given to Odin by Loki, which never misses its mark and always returns to Odin's hand. Kind of similar to, Mjolnir, which is basically Thor's weapon, which, he throws that bad boy away and it's going to return to him, right? So it's kind of a similar manner. Now, the next shape we have here is the one you can see right there, which is kind of like a elongated, kind of like lines with X on the top, which is M, or Manaz, or Heimdall, man, human, was a trident in the early days. And then you've got this kind of N shape, which equals U, or Urus, and Wasser. And I guess Wasser is like water, I guess, in German, if I'm remembering that correctly. Now, why are these important? Well, let's break it down. There are very few written testimonies from the time of the mythical cults. Basically, the mythical, like, not mythical cults, but I guess the way he's referring to them here is cults, but the way you kind of look at it is like the mythological kind of gods and the way they were seen by, you know, these people from this time. So, but those who could be found are the runes carved into metal or stone. Now, if you look at the Galar war clip from the Lucario movie, which he's assuming here that that is from Galar, which I don't think that's actually from Galar. That's if we make the assumption that the image right there is from a Galar, and the shape that we saw there, the U, Urus, Vasa, if you see that on the kind of like red armor there, if we assume that is actually, you know, that is what it is, and it's meant to be like, you know, that reference, then sure, but then we also got the M, Manaz, Heimdall, man, human, was a threat in the early days on the other ones. If we make the assumption that's Galar, then I can see how this would work out, but let's just continue here. Now, if we look at the Galar war clip from the Lucario movie, then we can see that clearly that the runes are carved on metal, or more specifically on the armor of the Pokemon. If you look in the Sword and Shield trailer, we can see the runes are carved on stone. Coincidence? Well, we will see. Now, next up, we have another image here, and this one shows you kind of a depiction of the Kalos War, which happened 3,000 years ago, and some of you may remember this. Now, what's interesting is that there's been a few discoveries made here that I think are quite interesting. So the first one you have here is a Roman warrior, which you can see that they kind of have the shape of the helmet at the back there, which kind of looks like that. Then you got Poseidon, because you got the tridents all over the place. You got tridents on the top, in the, you know, top left in 2 spots, and also in the right top as well. And this can then refer to the gods and the rune M, plus a Gallic warrior in the right side. So again, seemingly a possibility, but who knows. Now, the Germanic and Nordic gods always find their origin, or their equivalent origin, in Roman culture as well, and their deities also have a connection to Greek mythology, which you can kind of see the connection there, where, you know, Poseidon is kind of, it could be kind of seen as the equivalent to like Odin, except they kind of don't do the exact same thing. I mean, Poseidon's in the ocean and whatnot, whereas, you know, Odin's totally different position, right? It kind of be looking at 2 different positions, except though Poseidon doesn't take up, like, he isn't the main dude. It's more like, I guess, Zeus, who takes up more of the, like, put that high position, I guess you could say, whereas Odin's kind of like more similar to that. It's kind of hard to put it into perspective, but they are very kind of similar in a sense. Now, this results in an interesting casuality, because in the Kalos War, a Roman style is deposited in illustrations, whereas on the potential Galar side, a Greek style is recognizable. This Acropolis building also supports this thesis, as a result of the fact that the symbols of the Nordic gods are almost equal to the older deities of the Roman and Greek empires, but that Nordic mythology has a direct connection to that of the Teutons and Scots, basically Irish and English. This style mix makes total sense, for if one were to define oneself stylistically, for example, only on Nordic mythology and architecture, or only in English architecture and mythology, then it wouldn't be as of a luscious of a thing, and the environment and the game world would just be less varied and interesting, which is true. So, to put it into perspective here, as we're reading through the information, if we were to, like, look at the way Pokemon as a company, as a franchise, as Game Freak themselves, as the way they kind of work around, you know, mythology into their games, they make sure to not just take one aspect from one mythology and 100% use that. Instead, they mix things together, and there are a lot of, like, videos you can see about this, a lot of, like, posts on the internet about this subject, which goes into it way more in depth, but you gotta remember that they take advantage of, like, all the possible aspects that you can possibly take when it comes down to the concept of using mythology. They mix things together, right? They may take mythology from, like, one point of history to a totally other point of history and mix those two together to make something new, which is the way you should use mythology in a proper manner, and not just directly, like, not rip it off, but rather, you know, not directly, like, copy it off and then just go with that, assuming that's, like, you know, a unique sort of form of art. Whereas I think it's more interesting and actually a way better way of actually producing something new by taking aspects of 2 different things and mashing those together, which is what they do. And as we actually will notice down here, he actually brings it up, which is that Game Freak takes advantage of the casuality of this historically proven fact and creates a medley of mythology, which is true, historically and architecturally, and probably on what the fauna and flora is. If you add here the modernity and the actual history of England, which, you know, with industrialization, social activities such as soccer, rugby, art, etc., you can create a colorful playground which is full of possibilities, but still fits together as a whole. Which is actually really freaking true, and that's what gets me very much intrigued in this theory, because this is like, you may be a bit confused during the start, but the reason he's trying to find all these connections, and the reason we've been trying to find all these connections in general as a community, is because it brings together a bit of a clearer picture of what they're going for with the Galar region, and can also give us more insight into where they might be going. But you also got to remember that Game Freak will mix things together, and when they do that, that's when they create the most interesting stuff possible, because it creates for good theories, good intriguing stories, and also a nice connection to our real life world. So it's kind of interesting. And he also mentions here that in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, for example, this did not work because the contrast of tropical and supernatural game worlds was too big and it is broken rather than logical and fluent fitting, which I can kind of agree with that. Like, you know, I personally didn't enjoy the Hawaii setting, which they had in Alola, not because I don't like Hawaii, it's just that I don't really feel a connection to that place as much as I'd feel it, you know, in Galar, where I know more about, like, you know, the deities that exist in this part of the world, you know, with, like, you know, I think everybody knows who Thor is. Everybody knows pretty much who Odin is at this point, who Loki is. And these are characters that, sure, they show up in stuff like, you know, I guess in stuff like Marvel and stuff like that, so a lot of people will know it from that, but also a lot of people here in Europe will know it based on mythology that they learned in school. That's where I learned about Thor for the first time, not in Marvel. I learned about that in school, you know, because we had to learn it. We had to, like, learn some aspects of the Viking, you know, Viking history, Viking lore, Nordic lore, if anything. We had to learn about their mythology and stuff, and that's, like, you know, really where all that came from. So I think the fact that, like, we didn't see that well-produced kind of, like, mythology mixing in Alola was because the mythology that did exist there was very much kind of like a kind of a mixture of messing around with, like, potentially what could work, and, you know, mixing that together with this kind of, like, hyper supernatural, as mentioned here, kind of world where you can time travel and stuff, which kind of just mixed in really weirdly, but somehow also worked in one way, but also another way just didn't, like, flow really as well as potentially Galar could flow. But that's just how it is, though. Now, next up, we have the Kalos War. Now, here you'll see an image saying he turned the machine into the ultimate weapon. The man became a bringer of destruction that ended the war. So yeah, this is one thing that I think is worth bringing up, because we talked about the Kalos War before, but I think here we have a perfect kind of breakdown of it. So, the conflict between Kalos and potentially Galar could well have indicated the mythological history of the war between Asen and Vannen. Asen, leader slash king of King Odin or Tyr, and Vannen, leader slash King Njord, had two twin children, Freyr and Freya. Fought a major war in which the Asians, it was Asians, but Asians emerged victorious. Now, what if we were to imply that the hill figure is not a praised deity, but a memorial of war? Which is actually a really cool way to look at it, because we all assumed that, like, most of us at least, I'd say, I'm not going to say all, but most of us have assumed that the big hill drawing could be referring to a brand new Pokemon, the legendary, some sort of dragon potentially, could be Melmetal, some people have said, but he's looking at it from a totally different way. He's looking at it more of a, you know, from like a sense of, like, you know, this being a depiction of a event that happened and a memorial for that event, rather than a, you know, looking at it from more of a, you know, oh, this is a Pokemon type of, you know, thing. So, which is kind of interesting. So, as just mentioned, what if we apply the hill figure is not a praised deity, but a memorial of war? Because this figure shows a representation of a being with one eye, which is true. And of course, do you remember, Metal and Meltan do have one eye. And who else has one eye? Well, Odin, and I guess eventually Thor, I guess, well, in some sense, if you look at Marvel. But here's what we have, though. The figure shows a representation of a being with one eye. Odin had just one eye, because he had mortgaged the other to become all-seeing, which basically he put it on a mortgage, is what we're trying to get to here. He basically took out his eye so he could get an all-seeing one. But what if Melmetal, or its development, also have this concept, of course, in a modified form, and assuming, like, let's assume that they have artistic freedom, and also to, like, modify the concept, they could definitely go to some sort of extent of trying to look into the future by using Melmetal, which wouldn't be too surprising, if I'm going to be honest, because I kind of agree with this, that let's be honest, right? I think Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon and Sun and Moon opened up a kind of can of worms that really brought a lot of shift in how things should be seen when it comes down to, you know, just our Pokemon kind of experience. They've added time travel now, which, you know, it's just been insane. I mean, it already existed in some form and shape back in, like, I guess Oras as well, in some form, but then Sun and Moon really took it to the extreme, and it kind of did exist in, like, you know, not time travel, but dimension traveling and stuff has existed for a while now. Like, Pokemon's been a really messy thing. Actually, no, now that I think about it, back to it, actually, Soul Silver, Heart Gold were one of the first games to, like, have direct time travel, you know, that I can remember off the top of my head, because I remember you could time travel back there and actually meet Giovanni, which was interesting. So that's that, though. Now, you'll see some images here, and let's break them down. So, the aura of the ultimate weapon, Energy, looks kind of like this, like he swirls, like a big swirl of electricity is shown by the detonation, which you can see right there. That's from, like, when it actually, like, explodes. And you can see right here that if you look at the hill drawing, he's kind of trying to make the connection that potentially this, like, giant creature that was, like, you know, like that we're seeing here with the one eye, could just be the machine that AZ used, or, like, the weapon that AZ used to actually, you know, commit the atrocity that he did. It could just be that. And then you can look down there in the bottom, you can kind of see the same electricity kind of popping out of the actual orb that's been created. And you'll see that there is electricity coming out of that orb in the actual hill drawing. But that's not all, though. You'll also notice that Melmetal only has one eye. Odin has only one eye. There could be that eye right there. And it could be that, you know, the thing around its head, you know, that looks kind of like a cogwheel or whatever, could be the crown that AZ had, as well as the giant thing itself could just be the weapon. Now, Melmetal is basically like Odin's all-seeing eye, and Odin is the king of gods, as AZ is the king of Kalos, and the head of the hill figure could resemble that and a crown on the top, plus the silhouette looks kind of like they close the ultimate weapon, which again, I agree, it kind of does, and it's maybe a little bit far-fetched, but again, it's a theory, so you gotta remember that. Now, next part we gotta bring up is going to be quite interesting. So here is an image, and you're gonna like this. So we've got a picture of a city burning on the left, and then we also got another one exploding on the right side. And below here we have an upside version of the Galar region. Right, so that's the map, and right there you can see one of the, we're assuming is going to be one of the first gyms, being the grass type one, the water type one, and the one up there in the Colden area. So we got that kind of circled in, as well as like a light tower or whatever. We got that. So here's what we have as a mention, you know, from your boy. As mentioned earlier, the Acropolis building is kind of a key figure to connect Kalos and Galar and the war that happened 3,000 years ago. On the picture you can see that the Acropolis is as well on the Galar map as on the pictures referring to that of the Kalos War, which AZ caused and stopped. The positioning is near the lighthouse and the water stadium, which if you look right there on that image, you can see there is a bit of a lighthouse in the top left right there of that first image. You'll notice there's a bit of a lighthouse. Then you got a little bit of like a, you know, almost like a stadium looking thing, and a small little building up in the top. And then if you look at the explosion, you kind of got that, you know, where it's coming from, you kind of got that same thing going on. And then in the distance over here, I guess you kind of have that gym that we have right there in the distance, maybe being the green one. It's possible, but it's kind of also confusing. As well as, if you look at the original image there, the top one, you've got the lighthouse, you've got the blue being, I guess, the water-type gym, and the yellow could be the giant building in the distance in the snowy area. And then over there, you got the kind of, I guess that could, if we make an assumption here, that could be the grass-type looking gym next to the explosion, or the explosion could have started from the grass-type gym. That's a high possibility as well. Though I feel like the explosion must have started somewhere around that crater that we see right there, because that giant crater in like the middle of the map with like a giant wall, which of course reminds me of Hadrian's Wall, which is a real life thing, so it's possible. Now let's go back to that. So positioning is near the lighthouse and the water stadium, which was maybe an arena around 3,000 years ago. The detonation happened right next to the lighthouse, so we can imply, because the detonation is kind of small on the first picture, that the detonation of the ultimate weapon happened at the grass gym, which is highly possible, because that area is a little bit of a kind of like, it's kind of in a little bit of a not so, like, in a pit almost, right? It's not in an elevated area. It's kind of like in a pitty area, which you'll notice in the below images here. In these images, you'll notice it's kind of in a pit area. But yeah, so that's kind of what it looks like. And as a memorial, the hill figure was created, and maybe the big stones are ruins of old buildings, and the little field around the grass gym are possibly old graves. Now, why is that? Well, because the energy of the ultimate weapon gave Floette eternal life, and so we can imply it is not only the destruction, but it's also the bringer of life, and basically flourishing nature, which is highly possible. And you'll see right there, again, that image, that could be the impact zone where, you know, things exploded, and it could be, if you look at the image right there, there's actually kind of an entrance that looks very similar like the one from, you know, when we see the actual explosion happen, which is very similar. So that's very intriguing. But we're not done yet, because like I said, this theory is pretty huge. But since it's going to be a long video, I thought we'd cut this video here in part 1 and actually bring you part 2 later on, because there is way more to tell you guys about, but I thought it would be taking too long time, and honestly, this is going to end up being a 30-minute to 40-minute video, and I thought doing part 2 theory in a different video would be better. So first of all, a big thank you to your boy Rex here for actually putting this together. Like, seriously, the man is a genius, and he really put some time and effort into this. So if you guys want to actually, you know, see more of this, please drop a like down below. If this video can hit, let's say, like, some ludicrous number of like 700 likes, I'll make sure to edit the video and get it out in a day or two. But if we don't hit that, I may have to take a longer time, because, you know, if there's not enough interest, I'll take it slowly and take it, you know, one step at a time, as it will take a pretty long time to get it done. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed this part 1, get excited for part 2, because that should come very soon as well. So yeah, thanks so much for watching that, though, ladies and gentlemen, and let's go to the next thing. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are now going to be unboxing the Loot Crate, Loot Gaming, I guess. I don't know. Either way, we're going to be unboxing this. Big thank you to Loot Crate again for sending this my way. I'm going to be churning this around here for a second, because there is, of course, my, you know, address and all that stuff, and I don't really want that to be popping up on the screen. So, let's just open this up and see what we got in here, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I usually don't keep the boxes because I just don't have space nowadays, but we did get... Okay, this is actually sick. This is actually really sick, and wow, what the okay, this is interesting. So, ladies and gentlemen, we've got a, I think it's a Tomb Raider t-shirt, dude. This is actually really cool. As someone who's personally played a lot of Tomb Raider, I played through all the, like, recent games. I haven't played the newest one, but I played the new ones that they've been making. We got a freaking, Lara Croft, t-shirt, lads. That's pretty sick. I do like that. That's the first one. So, next up, we got a, snapback, which I can definitely use on streams. I think this is, wait, is this from the Elder Scrolls? I feel like it's from the Elder Scrolls, but I could be wrong. I'm not sure, though. But either way, it is a snapback, or, I mean, what do you refer to these as? Let's see. So, it's, yeah, it's the Elder Scrolls. It's the Elder Scrolls. It's a snapback, Elder Scrolls snapback. So, we got that, and we also do have some, smaller things here. We've got a, pin. We got a collectible pin, little ruby pin, a Dark Souls card wallet. That's actually, wow, yeah, that's pretty sick. Probably give this to my brother because he, you know, loves TCG sort of stuff. And we also have this right here, which I do not know what this is, but it's a something Diablo related though. It's a little box within a box, so I'm really curious as to what this could be. Let's just open this bad boy up and see what's inside. It is a mug. Okay, wow, that is, dude. Oh, this is actually awesome, dude. Because I actually don't have a I have like one of my beer mugs or whatever, which I don't drink beer, but I use that because it's easier to drink out of it. This is actually really sick, dude. There's like engravings on it from like Diablo, so that's actually really cool. Except I don't know if I want to drink from a cup that says devil on it in Spanish. Either way, ladies and gentlemen, this is actually really cool. I do like this. So that is about it. There is a few more things in the box, which I think are just discount codes and that sort of stuff. Wobbly bobbly, let's see. Skedaddle Skedoodle is actually a poster. It's an Elder Scrolls Online poster, I'm pretty sure. Could be wrong though. But yeah, there we go. We got our Elder Scrolls poster. Not bad. Not too bad. I mean, it is from the, is it from, yeah, it's the online one. Right, it's from the online game. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be it for the unboxing. I hope you guys enjoyed that. And again, shout out to Loot Crate for sponsoring these videos and sponsoring this channel. It is appreciated. Thank you so much. If you guys want to check out Loot Crate, simply just hit that, you know, button down below, which is going to be a link down below to Loot Crate, so you can check that out. Also, you can use code RUFFLED for a discount to get yourself a little bit of a discount if you're going to be getting yourself Loot Crates. So, do check them out, give them some love, and yeah, thanks so much for watching the video, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Have a great day, and bye-bye.